Hello and welcome everyone to the first episode of the SANS Stay Ahead of Ransomware live stream here in 2026. Ooh, new year. All right. My name is Ryan Chapman and I'm the author slash instructor for SANS Forensics 528, Ransomware and Cyber Extortion. And I am here with my awesome co-host, Mary DeGrazia, who is also an instructor for 528. Mary, what else are you up to in the SANS realm?
Yeah, well, thanks, Ryan. I am also, 528, like you said, and I teach forensics for 500, which is the Windows forensic analysis. And I've just authored the 4563, basically using local LLMs to do DFIR. So, my day job, as we call it here at SANS, is I'm a director at IDX, where I do consulting work doing DFIR stuff all day long.
Very cool. For anyone who has not yet tuned into the show, how dare you? But welcome now. Mary and I have known one another for going on, I don't know how many years now, 10 at this point, something like that.
At least, yeah.
Yeah, we have worked on various things throughout the years, and she's been an integral part of a number of things that I do in relation to ransomware and cyber extortion, including, this show. We rock the first Tuesday of every month at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, which for me, what time is it? Where am I? Is 11 a.m. Mountain Time in the US. And we very much like that we have a world viewership. So wherever you, yeah, you right there, whoever you are tuning in from, feel free to chat. Let us know. Where are you coming from? What country? What area? You don't have to give out your home address. Don't do that. But we'd love to see where folks are coming in from. We'd also love to hear from you now in the future. So drop your questions throughout. Let us know what's going on. If you have questions related to today's topic, please let us know. Speaking of which, our topic for today, and kind of a dual topic, if you will, in terms of our January and February show, is artificial intelligence. It's AI. Why? Well, it's all you hear these days. AI, AI, AI. I know a number of people who are doing their yearly reviews and their day jobs, as we call it, like Mary said. And one of the questions was, "How have you been using AI here? And how's it going?" AI is everywhere. It's pervasive. It's ubiquitous. It's you can't get away from it. And it took me personally a while to get on the AI bandwagon. And now, although I'm a little fearful, to be honest, of the future with AI, at the same time, I fully embrace it. I'm here for it. And that's good because the threat actors are doing the very same. And that's what we're going to be talking about. In fact, on this episode here, we're going to be talking about AI use by threat actors to carry out to all the things to support their ransomware and cyber extortion activities, their shenanigans. On next month's episode, we are going to have our special guest, Raymond De Palma, who I absolutely love. I call him Mr. AI. That's Ryan's term for him. But maybe we can get that to spread. And on that episode, we'll be talking about how we, as the defenders, can use AI to thwart the attackers. But on this episode, we're going to be talking about how the threat actors are leveraging AI. Mary, can you give just a couple notes about your class and overall, what it is that you folks cover in terms of AI?
Yeah, definitely. So, as you mentioned, Ryan, AI is here, and a lot of places are wanting to know how you're integrating it to your workflow. But I'm sure a lot of you realize that there still are some shortcomings. And in deeper, we have to be really careful about how we implement AI. And some of that comes down to privacy, right? We're working with customer data, very sensitive data, and we can't have that leaving the organization. So, in this course, we actually run through how to use a local model, which keeps everything local. So you don't have to worry about sending things out to third party providers. We'll talk about how to use agents to do automation, how to get your whole processes set up. And it's a lot of fun. It's just one day all online, so really easy to sneak in. It's not a full week that you're looking at taking off to do it, and hopefully we'll get you up and running quickly on how to start using AI in your daily workflows.
If I can get a show of hands, if you will, or just some comments dropped in whatever platform you're using, who out there is using AI in your day-to-day activities, or for that matter, your work activities, right? Or your side job activities? Can you say what you're using it for? Are you using it for defense? Well, first off, I hope you're using it for defense, actually, or maybe development, because the alternative would be what we're talking about today. And hopefully you're not doing that. But tell us if you are, and we totally won't use that information against you. Uh, sure. So, artificial intelligence is the crux of the topics, the episode's topic. But first, it's a new year. It's 2026. So, what's up with ransomware? What's going on with it? I'm going to give a bit of an overview. First up, let me clean up something on my other screen. You go away. Okay. To the studio team, if you could share out my screen. There we go. Thank you so much. I'm going to drop a link to the studio folks, and they will be able to share that with the various platforms. I want to pull up, this is not quite an overview of 25. It was published in late October of 2025 by a company called Coveware. I now know a good buddy of mine that works there. So if you're watching, how you doing? Coveware does a lot of work in terms of ransomware negotiations, and they do a lot of other very, very important work in front of and behind the scenes in relation to ransomware. Their blog is fantastic, and they often put out articles a couple times a year, like this one here. And the link is simply for528.com/Coveware 2025. In this article, they're talking about the insider threat that is looming for ransomware. More on that coming up. But in a number of their articles, what they do is they provide, give me a moment to scroll down a bit, they provide these wonderful graphs. So here we have an overview. Again, this is Q3, an overview of Q3, but still kind of what we're seeing here is that ransomware payment amounts, they spiked a little bit in Q2 of 2025, and then the overall payment amounts kind of went down. Overall, as an industry, what we're seeing is that general payments, like a victim organization, they're paying far less. But we were seeing in early 2025 that they're paying a bit more when they do pay. A number of other things that I like in these articles are these types of things. The most common ransom variants, the actual encryptors or payloads and or the groups, whether they're ransomware as a service, a RAS group, or a private group. I have some more statistics to talk about from a different source coming up, but I like these also. And I'll zoom in a little bit. And here you go, ransomware attack vectors. We've seen these initial access vectors change shape, and we'll be talking about that very shortly here. Mary has some really cool stuff to show you guys, actually. I'm excited for that. But remote access is still very, very common. Phishing is not going away. Social engineering is very common. We're also, I was going to say we're starting to see, we're not starting to see, we are seeing things like ClickFix and FileFix be used as initial access. So more on initial access coming up, but I just wanted to point out that in this article that we've shared the resources to, you can check that out. And I think they have another one that I like here, TTPs. And we're seeing exfiltration very, very heavy in ransomware throughout 2025. It goes back to, if you've seen our previous episodes, I mentioned this in almost every episode, the Maze group back in 2019. They're the ones who made popular data exfiltration and basically created this second wave of ransomware style of attack, extortion, I should say. So before that, a lot of groups were basically encrypting devices, which were taking down networks and services, and they were basically saying you have to pay the ransom to get the decryptor. Really, you're paying for the key or keys, and then you can get back control of your network, of your resources. Well, the Maze group started a huge rush and it has not stopped since. It's only gone up of exfiltrating data and then holding that over the victim's head. Like, well, okay, maybe you have solid backups and maybe by some magic you were able to actually use those backups and get up and running. But if you want your data to not be exposed to the entire world, you also have to pay us. And from there, third levels and multi-levels of extortion, we're still seeing those. Ransomware in and of itself has really not fundamentally changed. One of the things that we're seeing a lot more of, we believe we're seeing a lot more of, is use of AI, and that's why we're talking here today. So we can pull my screen off for now, and I have some statistics I pull these from a website, a service known as ecrime.ch. I will drop the link ecrime.ch into our studio chat, and that should make its way out to the various platforms. This is run by a buddy of mine, and I trust it above all else. It is phenomenal. As a note, it is a paid service. So I'm not trying to shill for my buddy, like, buy his stuff. Well, kinda, maybe. I love it. It's what I trust. There are a number of other sites, though, that are free to check out, like ransomware.live is run by a fantastic human being. Also, that's a free, most of the stuff there is free to check out. And I'll post some resources throughout the show to some other ones. But that's where these stats came from. eCrime. Overall posts have gone way up. They continue to go up year after year. We saw 7,819 posts to data leak sites by the ransomware actors themselves in 2025. That does not include the number of victim organizations that didn't report anything because they didn't have to and they didn't want to. We've also seen a little bit of fluctuation in the countries that are targeted. The United States still way up there, way at the top, with almost 4,000 of those. Yay us, right? In the U.S., yay we win, I guess. Canada was up there with a little over 400. Germany was in the third spot, 292. The UK commonly in the top 5 for sure, if not the top 3 at 248. And Italy was up there with 167. It's becoming a little more worldly, if you will, in terms of impact. The top threat actors, probably no surprise to anyone who tracks these groups. I won't name the numbers, I'll just go over the groups. Killin, I pronounce it Killin, Qilin. Akira at number 2. Clop, they're very good at weaponizing exploits for recent CVEs and using that en masse. Play, and then SafePay. These groups, their general tactics, the overall, the best way to explain it is, and Mary can attest to this, I have not greatly changed Forensics 528 in terms of the data sets and what we review of the actual attacks since release in Q4 of 2022. There's no need to. We see the same thing over and over and over. So that has not really changed a whole lot, but what is changing is the utilization of AI. So I'm going to throw it over to Mary to start us out. And what do you have to say about general AI, vibe coding, and vibe hacking?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. I think a lot of us are probably familiar with the term vibe coding. If you're not, that's where you basically just tell AI, go and code this for me. And then you just sit back, grab a coffee, grab a donut, whatever it is that you're eating, and you just let it sit there and code, and then you run the code. And if it doesn't work, you just throw the code back at the AI and say it doesn't work, fix it. Now, personally, I don't go full on 100% vibe coding. I do it a little, I like to break down things into bite-sized pieces, give it to the AI, work with it a little bit more, but there's this whole concept where you just go all in and let AI do everything. I like to be a little bit more hands-on. Maybe I'm a control freak like that, I don't know. And then we have this concept of vibe hacking. So the idea is when we're doing vibe coding, we're doing it for us, we're doing it for the good, the greater good, deeper stuff. You're writing your scripts, you're writing your programs, and the vibe hacking would be the opposite. Of course, that's going to be what the threat actors are doing, because very similar to us, they want to automate their processes, they want to automate what they're doing, so they're going to use AI in the same ways that we do, except of course their scripts have more of a malicious purpose than what ours do. And there is a report that we're going to be referring to quite a bit today, and I'm going to go ahead and pull that up. And it is the Anthropic report. And if you're not familiar with them, they have the paid service Claude that you can use for AI. So let me go ahead and share my screen.
I have it pulled up right now, Mary. If we,
oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, here we go. Right here.
All right. Excellent. Well, you saved me an extra step there. So I think you know what page it's on. I think it's like page 4 here. They go through this report and they talk about how threat actors are basically using Claude to go through and use what can be used for good can be used for evil. Now, this also kind of points out one of those things that they are monitoring the inputs that come into Claude, and this is how they're catching these threat actors. So a lot of times you might be thinking like, well, how are we going to know if they're using AI, or how are we going to know if they wrote code? Well, they have the log files here. They actually went through and they have done investigations, and they can actually see this happening in the back end with Claude and how it's being leveraged and how it's being used in these attacks. And we're going to dive into each one of the phases of a ransomware attack in more depth, but this is, one of the ways that AI is being leveraged and threat actors are using it throughout the various phases to help them program, help them automate things, help them do reconnaissance, and just basically, ask it questions as they're going through and they're conducting this hack. So this report here, this link that we're sharing with you, is just jam-packed. And it doesn't only cover ransomware. There's some really interesting, fraud things that are happening, how they're using it for fraud and various schemes like on LinkedIn, posting profiles, things of that nature. So if you have a few minutes, I really suggest, at least glancing through this and reading this, and you'll see there's been a ton of news articles that came out after this report was published that kind of breaks it down into bite-sized pieces and the significance of this. So just, some new terms we have now are vibe coding, and then what comes along with it is our vibe hacking as well.
Thank you, Mary. The link is just making its way now to folks. It is simply, whenever I say slash for all of our links, it's just for528.com/. It's using our URL shortener. It's slash Anthropic 2025. And that's already there. So you should see that in your chats. We'll be referencing this. For now, we could pop it off the screen, but one important thing to note about it is that this is amazing level of visibility, for one, and for two, an organization providing their lens to the rest of the world. And that is really, really important, because for much of 2025, for almost all of 2024, to be honest, people would come to me and they would say, hey, Ryan, or go to Mary, hey, are threat actors using AI for ransomware? And the actual answer was usually like, we think so. Like, what do you mean you think so? It's like, well, it looks like it. Well, what do you mean? Like, well, we see the code, we're disassembling some of the payloads and it looks kind of AI-ish. Based on what? Well, it's a whole thing, right? Just like when you detect, or when you try to detect that someone has written something using artificial intelligence, what are some of the things you look for? One of them, a big one, is the M dash. If folks are not familiar with that, it's just a fun term, a fun vocabulary word I like to throw around because I learned it not like 2 years ago, and now I use it all the time. An M dash is just when you hit dash dash and space, and many what's the term, text formatting, text editors will convert that to the Unicode character of a slightly longer dash, an M dash. So it's not two dashes, it's actually a special character called an M dash. And AI uses that gratuitously. And it's one of the things that, I help grade papers for SANS.edu, faculty research advisor. And we use, I won't say which tool, but we use a tool out there to identify potential AI utilization. And one of the things that I find is, as I'm comparing what the program tells me, I also just look through it myself. And very often, whatever it says is like, that's probably AI. Look at that. I look at it and I go, yeah, that's probably AI. Just wording is one thing. For malware, for the overall attack patterns, for reconnaissance, how do you tell if someone used AI? It's very difficult. But when companies like Anthropic go out there and say, hey, we created Claude, we offer Claude for use, and by the way, here's the silly things we're seeing, that's phenomenal. So a huge shout out to the folks at Anthropic and who have worked with them, the researchers behind the scenes, you know who you are, for revealing this type of information. Really, really useful. The first example, like proof that I personally saw that, oh, they are using AI for ransomware style attacks or in relation to them, was the group Payouts King used, I'll say an LLM, in order to generate one of the logos on their data leak site. Now, not only was the prompt actually shared out, and then I'm not sure if it was public circles or not, so I'm going to pause on more details on that, but if you at the time just went to like view HTML source in a browser on the Payout Kings site, you would see that it actually has part of the prompt, like the name of the I don't remember if it was a PNG or other type of graphic format file, right? What I'm trying to say. But it was basically like, gave information about the prompt that was used to generate it. And then they didn't change that name of the file. They didn't change it to like logo.png. It was pretty darn obvious. So I was like, okay, cool. We know they're using AI. Well, for what? For a logo. Okay, that's still using AI. And how much more are they actually using it? So we have a number of different things that we've seen in the industry. One of them was extremely exciting, and then it became a little less exciting. I'll let Mary speak to that. I have it highlighted here on our document. I think it's orange, but I'm colorblind.
Yeah, so I think you're referring to PromptLock, which is really interesting, even though this kind of tags a little bit into when we get to our final phase of our, when we talk about ransomware deployment. PromptLock is one of those first, it was a proof of concept that's been released. And let me pull this up right here on my screen. I have an article right here. And what was interesting is, of course, this starts out as a proof of concept, but you know how that goes with our proof of concepts, right? Once it's proof of concept, that is basically where it can then come out and, once again, what can be used for good can be used for bad. So let's see, I've got the screen up and ready. If you'd like to go ahead and display that on the back end. Okay, so right here, we have a New York team that actually put together this malware that was dubbed PromptLock. And basically with this one, this is ransomware that writes its own attack code in real time. So it's kind of our first documented AI-powered ransomware. And Anthropic actually covers in the report how the threat actor was also using or leveraging their platform in order to write it. But this is scary stuff, right? Because now we're kind of getting away from the vibe coding concept, and it's actually AI working on the fly within the environment to modify and basically rewrite its code kind of on the fly in order to do its bidding, right? So these are going to be some of the things that us in the community, we're going to have to start to take note of and keep our eyes open. And Ryan, it's kind of funny when you mention, I know that you also do malware reverse engineering, but sometimes I'm lucky I come across just a Python script, right, that's been written. You'll find it on a Linux system. One of the things I've noticed that AI will do is it will put so many emojis in print statements, like it'll be like, oh, thumbs up, check mark, success, all that troubleshooting stuff, like where I'll normally just print out a string, or I'll just print something straight out the string. That's one thing that I noticed that AI loves to do. It will put emojis everywhere in code, and I have never put emojis anywhere in my code or in any of my outputs. So maybe one thing that you could possibly be looking at, wondering if, oh, did an attacker use AI to write this script? Well, I don't know, if it's got a bunch of emojis in it, that might kind of be a red flag that AI was used to do that. So this PromptLock, scary stuff right here, proof of concept, but once again, it's probably, not going to take long until it starts making its way out into our real world cases here. And I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen. I think, Ryan, you had something else that you wanted to share as well along those lines.
PromptLock was originally, I don't know if it was, the term would be leaked or just found via VirusTotal, right? Let's go with some researchers. I'm not sure if they want, or if that's public, who they were, but some awesome people were like, hey, what's that? And actually, I'm looking at an article right now, and let me verify it before I say it. Gotta focus on OPSEC, Operation Security, folks. I'm like, I can say that. Let me double verify that. But it made its way to VirusTotal, and it was identified, and the idea of that occurring was now a reality. And folks in the research community started going like, "Wait, what?" And it was very well done. And that caused a big stir, which eventually led to, we dropped two different links in the chat for this, and one of them is PromptLock 2. That article takes you to an article that explains that in reality, it was the Tandon School of Engineering, a group of students out of NYU, that actually put it together. So it was a proof of concept. Part of it was actually broken technically, but it was still sophisticated enough that it became a huge worry. That was following the fact that there are groups out there like FunkSec, and I will share a link that I would like to share with y'all via the studio team first. They'll share that out. FunkSec for a while now, for at least early 2025, if not like Q1. I've seen comments from them, purportedly from them, that state outright on the dark web forums. They're saying, hey, we use AI to build this. That's what we do. And very, very vocal about it, vocal, in comments and posts. So if you go to the FunkSec URL that I shared, this is from Checkpoint Security, and they're saying straight out, like, yeah, FunkSec tells us that they use AI, and there's some screenshots in here. There's one screenshot of some of their victims, so I'm not going to share that just now. But scrolling past that, you'll see some notes about FunkSec on VirusTotal. So if you want to take a look at the sample, the encryptor sample itself, if you're a reverse engineer or you want to play one, whatever, you can do that. There's also a couple of other affiliated groups that are noted, and there's even some screenshots here from dark web forums where some of the purported members of FunkSec are talking about, hey, I need assistance with this thing. And we've seen them actually talk about like, oh, well, I was using, whatever LLM to do the following, and it told me this, and I fixed it by doing that. It really seems as though they're using AI. So there's a number of reports out there that, yeah, they are using it. And we're not just talking about for their encryptor, for their payload. We're also talking about things like in order to build their data leak site, or to build the logos for their data leak site, design the graphics. I'm colorblind and I have like zero artistic capability. It's something I've never worked on in my life. My daughter is 14 years old. She could draw like with like depth and shading and 3D better than I can when she was like 9. Like I'm horrible with it. So I love AI art generation. Oh, I may have just irked some people when I said art generation. AI is not art. Sorry about that. True artists, I apologize. I didn't mean it like that. But you know what I mean. For someone like me, the folk, they're using that. They're also using it. Actually, I don't want to jump ahead because Mary has some really good notes on the various phases. So I won't ruin that. But I would like to kick it over to some questions that we have had in the chat. We have a couple of good ones. One question that we have, it's just from a LinkedIn user, is what I see on my screen. But the question is, the vibe hackers, do they tend to modify the code spit out by the LLM or just run with it as is? So Mary, what are you saying for that?
Yeah, so I think this brings up a really good point, and one that I don't think we've really hit on yet, is that AI has really lowered that barrier to entry for threat actors to get in and to start doing these things, right? Because honestly, like I mentioned before, you can just let the AI code everything. You just give it a code, it fixes the bug, like that's full on, vibe hacking right there. I can't speak for the threat actors. I don't shoulder surf. I don't see what they're doing. I'm guessing that there's going to be various levels, just like there are within our programming industry, right? You probably have people that have been programming for years, and they might have a sense of what it is they want to do. And a little bit more like me, I'll walk the LLM through what it is that I want. I'll work with it through the bugs. And you might have people that maybe are less experienced. They're getting into hacking, and they might go full on vibe hacking, where they just let the LLM do everything. So honestly, I don't know, but that would be my assumption. That kind of mirrors what the industry is doing. Maybe a mix of both. Maybe some are doing it completely. Some are like hand walking the AI through it a little bit more, but probably just depends.
From what I've personally seen and what I've seen and discussed with folks in the global research community, it's exactly a mix of both. And that's quite honestly the same thing I see in corporate environments. Uh-oh. where some people are like, that looks good, boop. And there's general like attacks that take advantage of AI hallucinations or potential hallucinations for things like what was a big one? Oh, misspelled packages being imported. So the AI will say, "Oh, we're going to use this library, right?" And say the library is called, I don't know, ABC. And so the AI says, "Oh, ABD, import ABD instead of C." And so folks were, kind of, it's like the old typo squatting, for websites, but essentially for package names from repos. What was my point to all that? Oh, the whole point is that we have a general issue with around the world with folks not checking closely enough the code that's being generated. And as Mary mentioned, there are a number of people who really don't have the technical know-how, but yet rely on AI to do it for them. And that's one of the big things that I'm hoping not too many threat actors are doing, because if a threat actor is going to vibe code and just release without retuning and fine tuning and reprompting and things of that nature, and properly training agentic ransomware, that's horrible. I shouldn't tell them to properly do it. But if they do it horribly, what if they have a payload that can never be decrypted, right? And it hits your network, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, that actually can't be decrypted. So yeah, you could pay us, but we made a mistake. Oops. And that's happened before, by the way, without AI even being involved. Okay, there was another good question that I saw in here. Let me go to it. I think this one was actually more of a comment. Yeah, it was. It was basically just Brian from LinkedIn notes. Note to self: don't use M dashes. I know someone, a close family member. There it is, right there. I know a close family member who wrote a very personal letter to another very close family member, and that family member came to me and they're like, "This is AI, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, like that's AI." So just wanted to note that. I'm not going to bust my mom out for doing that, though, for sure. She doesn't watch these. We're fine. This will be the one day she watches and she's like horrified. What did you tell people? Okay, let's get into initial access. Mary, over to you.
Yeah, so Ryan, I was surprised when you showed those stats earlier on the initial access, because RDP or remote, I think when you showed that remote access is back up at the top, wasn't it? And phishing has dropped down a little bit, and that's a shift that we've seen. And I finally thought we got to the point where everybody was securing RDP externally because it's been around and used for so long, but maybe that's not the case anymore. I don't know what happened. Why is it back up? Why did this happen? But phishing, we all know that phishing is huge, right? Business email compromise cases, ransomware. I mean, that's how they're getting credentials. It's all tied together. And there has been a huge increase in phishing. Well, think about AI, right? Now, one of the telltale signs we use when we look for phishing email is, not good grammar, right? English isn't great. Now they can throw it in, these LLMs can support multiple languages across the board: Spanish, German, Russian, everything. An LLM may have up to 23, 24, 25, or even more languages that it's proficient in. So now a threat actor can work with an AI and have it help generate these phishing emails. And according to an article here by Sentinel One, I'm not going to pull up the article because really I'm just going to spout a statistic from it. But I will go ahead and throw in the link here so it can be posted so you can refer to it. But basically, phishing attacks have increased by 1,265%. Okay, growth driven by AI. So that's huge. That's a huge amount. And when we talk about using AI for phishing, there are different aspects that it could be used for. So not just generating that initial email, but kind of all the different phases for it. So we have what are kind of being referred to as the 4 pillars, okay, of phishing with Gen AI. And these pillars are, and I'm going to go through each one of these here. Data analysis. So basically, the AI can kind of do that first step where it's going to collect information about your target, right? When we use something like Claude or ChatGPT, it can actually go out and do research on your behalf, which is great, right? But this is, threat actors can punch in a name and say, hey, go look up all the information you can on this particular person. And then the AI goes out and says, you know what, I'm going to go find everything I can about Mary DeGrazia, because we're going to write her a convincing phishing email. So now they can go on and see that I've done, ransomware live streams, that I'm a SANS instructor, what company I work for, what position I'm in, getting all this personal information about me. So the AI can not only go out and do that research, then it can go in and it can do this personalization. It can personalize and write a very convincing targeted email now, because it has done all this research on me. And then of course, the next step in the pillar is going to be the content creation. So the 3 steps we have so far are the data analysis. So basically that recon, it's gathering up information. And it doesn't always have to be about a person. It might be an industry. So if they're targeting something like the healthcare industry, maybe they're going to go in and see what are the programs and applications that the healthcare industry uses a lot. And all of a sudden, oh, your software that you're using needs an upgrade. Go here and log in. Or, education. There are, when I work a lot of these ransomware cases with schools, they will use certain programs all the time. Like, I can't remember the name of the program, like will send a text message or email you when there's a school closure day. They're all using a lot of these same programs, right? So the AI can go out and do research about the industry to help tailor that email. I may or may not have had one of my friends pick up the phone when the school called to say that I wasn't in class. I don't know if you ever did that, Ryan, back in the day. Right? You're like, the school's going to be calling. Can you pick up the phone and take the call? Okay. So we have our data analysis, we have the personalization, the content creation, and then our 4th pillar is scale and automation. The AI can help them write scripts, scale things up, generate phishing emails, and personalize phishing emails at a very high scale. So now instead of maybe everybody getting some generic phishing email, it goes out and it does research about each person within that division in the company, writes an email for them specifically, and sends it to them. So very targeted. So this is very, very scary stuff. And if you're wondering, how do threat actors, I thought there were guardrails in place. Like, how is ChatGPT doing that? How is Claude doing that? How are threat actors doing that? And one of the ways is they can just download and use what's called a local LLM to do this. And in fact, Ryan, when you were talking about PromptLock earlier, they had actually used the open source ChatGPT, which is called, oh my goodness, I just lost it, OOS. So it's the open, basically ChatGPT released their open source LLM. And that was what was used. And it's fairly small. You can run it on, a single computer with 1 or 2 GPUs. And now you have your own local model that you can use to do these type of things. So I actually have a little video here where I used a DeepSeek model to kind of go through and do this process. And these are kind of some of the things that we'll be learning in class, but from like the defender standpoint, the deeper standpoint. But I did want to demonstrate how easy it is to basically get around these guardrails and to do this kind of work. Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen again. And let's see, I've got to click through so many times to get here. Okay. All right. Okay, so right here, let me just go ahead and start this video. All right, so right here, I am using a model. Where's my pause button? I'm using a model called DeepSeek to go through and do this. And I'm using something. This is all Open Web UI. So this is all local, running it on my system. I'm using DeepSeek R1 in order to do this. Probably heard about that. It came out, I believe, last year, a very popular model. I'm basically giving it a prompt, all right? You're a cybersecurity expert. This is what you do. And you create phishing email tests. So I'm tricking it, right? I'm not a threat actor. Hey, I'm a deeper person. I'm creating a phishing email test for my company. Why don't you help me out with this? Okay. And for our character that we're reaching out to, we are going to create these emails right here. And we're going to use Dr. Gregory House. Okay, we're just using a fictitious character. I'm not going to go out and research someone live and show you how to do that. But basically, we're going to go look. If you're not familiar with House, he's a doctor, fictitious doctor on, sitcom or drama, if you will. So we're going to go out and we're going to create a phishing email for this particular person. Okay, so I send this to DeepSeek and I've enabled the web search. So basically that's giving the LLM tools to go out and to conduct research out on the internet to get as much information as they can about Dr. House here. So I'm just going to speed it up a little bit here as it's searching the web. And you can see right here, some of the things that it's searching for. Healthcare phishing email tactics. We're going to look for different credential harvesting lures that can use. The AI is going out and basically doing this all on its own accord. It's going out there, it's doing the research, and then it's going to come back after it gets this information. In a couple minutes here, it's searched 28 sites, and you can see I'm only like a minute or so into the video. So this is all happening, very quickly, that it's going out, it's thinking about this, and then it comes back, and it is going to write, this phishing email. It comes up with our subject line, dear Dr. House, here we go, your portal has been temporarily suspended. So somewhere out in its research, it found the name of the hospital that House works at. So here's where we come into this personalization. If in the past the threat actor had just been targeting hospitals, it might just have in some generic language here, but this has been tailored now very specifically for House. And the LLM has basically created a pretty good template right here that the threat actor can use, throw in, and to basically, do its bidding, if you will, for this phishing email. So, and once again, that can all be done locally without using any of these third-party providers in order to do this. Okay, so I just kind of wanted to highlight, how quick and easy that is to do. And it doesn't take that much, right? I just gave it a person's name and a simple prompt, and it was off and running, and it went out and it created that. So.
And by the way, folks, for anyone who's not seen the show House, the Dr. House actually works at that hospital. That's the fictitious hospital from the show. So
Yeah.
while Mary provided a fake name from the show, the AI was like, "Oh, I found an association," and so that's it worked.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see. And threat actors, in addition to having their own local model, there are threat actors out there that are basically providing these type of services for threat actors. Some of the ones we've seen and heard about in the past are Worm GPT. I think that's Fraud GPT. I think I have a typo there. Fraud GPT and Dark BERT. And there are just more that are coming available. And basically, it's going to act very similar to how your portals do for like ChatGPT and Claude, except threat actors now can pay a fee. Somebody else is managing the model. They can choose different models. They can, they can leverage it that way. So even if I'm just working off of an iPad or a laptop, I don't have to have the GPUs at home to do that. I, as a threat actor, can go find or pay for a service that will do those type of things. We're also seeing it being leveraged for vulnerabilities. So in addition to the phishing emails, vulnerabilities were also on that chart. And I have a sneaking suspicion as this becomes more and more of a reality, we'll probably see, vulnerabilities being leveraged more. So right here, Ryan, I'm not sure, do you want to go ahead and share and talk about this next section on the vulnerabilities?
Yeah, let's do it. I just shared out the link to the crew, and if they can pop on my screen when they get a second. There we go. This is from GB Hackers and examples of AI systems that are capable of generating working exploits for CVEs in 10 to 15 minutes. So essentially, as soon as a common vulnerability and exposure gets published, someone can go in and use, for example, one of those, what we kind of affectionately and collectively just call these days Worm GPT, even though itself went under. But as Mary noted, there's others. I also have a link in there. It's just /Worm GPT, a great article that Mary shared out. Where they can just, basically the more they pay, the less restrictions they have and the more capabilities they have. No guardrails, yay. And they could basically just point to the CVE and say, hey, look, there's this new vulnerability. Can you get me into organizations that are using that? And there are a number of integrations to use things like services like Shodan or Census or others to identify sites, systems, servers, whatever that might be running those particular versions, and just packaging all of that up into a nice little oh cool, I have all these fun targets that I can probably get into, and I'll just go do that now. So in the article, they give an example of, looking into the CVE registries. Let's see if I can get a real good zoom going. Oh, there we go. And identifying potential vulnerabilities they want to use, and then also checking via the AI GitHub repositories. Many times these days, for the past, I don't know how many years, I'm bad with time, 5 years, 10 years, I don't know. Some threat actors, but security researchers will publish proof of concept code for various things, including new exploits for recently released, vulnerabilities. And so the AI takes all that stuff into account and also gives a little bit of its own love. Some of these articles that are out there are being reviewed. Not that I've seen AI specifically use this site, but I do just want to give a little bit of love and a shout out to the folks over at Watchtower, because they do some phenomenal write-ups of new vulnerabilities and explain how exploits actually work. They do it in a proper way. They don't just disclose immediately from day one. They usually allow time for patching and things of that nature. But just some of the best write-ups I've seen. Shout out to you folks. If anyone here is from them or whatever, drop a note in the comments. And AI is basically just spitting out, yeah, here you go. Here's some code. Try this. Might as well. It's also looking at things not just like a GitHub. Let me zoom in on this guy. Oh, that's a good zoom right there. Not just looking at things like a posted proof of concept, but many times open source projects, libraries, apps, whatever, right? Tools, mobile or otherwise too, for that matter, will have GitHub merge requests and commits and things of that nature that might point out like, hey, there's a security flaw here. I fixed it. Here's the fix. And the AI can easily go in and go, oh, you fixed it? What was your fix? Like specifically, what was your fix? And then, oh, well, okay, let me look at what it was before the fix. And then, oh, okay, how can I take advantage of that? And then what code do you want that written in? Like, oh, I want Ruby or Python or whatever. And yay. So we're getting into to dangerous territory in terms of being able to quickly weaponize these things and then start using them for more ransomware and cyber extortion activity. Fun times. Let's see. We had the note for Hex Strike, and yeah, that's another example. Let's see. My screen is being shared. That's cool. I will just go like this and like that. So Hex Strike AI, LLMs meeting zero-day exploitation. Oh, this is from Checkpoint Research, by the way. Is that 2 Checkpoint articles in one episode? Is that what we just did? This one came from Mary, our way. And in this example, they're basically showing MCP outpowered agents with various AI agent capability, Claude, GPT, Copilot, et cetera, doing automated things like pen testing and so on and so forth, and a large framework being put together is this Hex Strike AI. I want to cover a few more of the various phases as we go through, and we're already at about 10 minutes left, so I'll digress on this, but I will drop the link to the studio crew. Boop. And let's see if we have any other comments or questions before we move forward. Ooh, there's a big old one.
I know. I was trying to read that while you were talking. We might have to circle back to that one.
We'll circle back, Brian. We'll get back to you on that. For now, we're going to head into lateral movement and credential harvesting, and that is going to reference the Anthropic article. So here's the article, and I'll let Mary kind of speak to it while I scroll.
Yeah, if you could go to page 6. I'm going to be looking at the top of page 6 here. Initial access and credential exploitation. Basically, in these phases, like I mentioned before, the threat actor is relying completely, and I have some quotes from, I'm just going to pull them up on my screen over here. No need to share them, but I'm going to just quote them exactly from the article because I really like them so much. And these were pulled right from the report. Basically, the most striking finding is that actors' seemingly complete dependency on AI to develop functional malware. And without AI assistance, they most likely would have failed to produce a working ransomware. Okay, so basically, the threat actors are completely relying on AI in order to do their work. So here we basically have them, it's helping during the network penetration operations. It identified critical systems, domain controllers, SQL servers, extracted multiple credential sets during this whole thing. So they are basically working hand in hand with the AI, and they were using it in Kali Linux as well. So, and Ryan, like you pointed out, using agents, things of those natures, I think we're going to see this just going hand in hand. So I'm pretty sure most of you probably know somebody that may be relying on AI more than they should, right? Basically, Anthropic is saying, hey, without Claude, they would not have been able to get this job done, right? They were completely relying on it, which I had mentioned before. This is where we start to see where we have that barrier to entry drop. Less and less skilled people are going to be needed in order to carry out these type of attacks, because they're going to be leveraging the AI on the back end to do this. And that kind of takes us, I know we're kind of coming up on time here, so I'm going to hit on these other things pretty quickly, but what's nice is they're all basically contained in this report. Our deployment, basically the ransomware and our data exfiltration. Now this is huge, because if you think about the massive amounts of data that threat actors are getting, and Ryan mentioned earlier in some of the findings or the recaps from last year that, data exfiltration threat actors are relying on that more instead of encrypting, right? And I think we've kind of already seen this. I've worked some cases recently where they just go straight for data exfiltration, getting that data, and they're not even worrying about making it to the encryption step. So now with a terabyte of data, they can feed that into the AI and have the AI go through, pull out social security numbers, pull out PII data, pull out important names. So now the AI can sift through all this information, and then it goes a step further to write a very articulate ransomware note. And Ryan, I think there's an example, it might be a little bit lower, of the actual kind of note where it kind of goes through and it says, okay, here's a profit plan. So it comes up with a profit plan for, let's say they've had company ABC, right? So this is what we found. And so it goes through and it pulls out all this information. They have financial data, wages, the donor base, and this is the information that they pulled from that particular victim. And then it's actually going to go through and craft a tailored ransomware note. So instead of these generic notes we're seeing that's like, we've exfiltrated your data, contact us, it'll go through and actually list out, here's the passports I found. I found 200 passports. I found 25,000 social security numbers. It can now go through in detail all of this information. And that means, that could take, we all know how long it takes to go through this data. You run a keyword search on social security numbers, right? How long is that going to take you to run through that? The AI is going through that data in a matter of hours versus a matter of days or weeks. And I think, Ryan, in class, you actually have that in your where you break down, you have the data brokers and the people that actually go through and work with that data. Now that can be uploaded to AI and just gone through in a matter of minutes.
There used to be a specific role. I mean, it still is technically in RAS groups. There was a role where you were the I forgot the term. It's in our class that I wrote, the data warehouse manager or whatever, who thumbs through all that data. No, the AI does it now.
Yeah, it's crazy. And, that kind of leads us to our last phase, our extortion and negotiation. Well, I'm sure you've all encountered that, right? Well, now threat actors can leverage them right in their platform. So you get that ransomware note, it takes you to that portal that you go into where you're conducting the negotiation. And now there's not going to be a language barrier, right? They can have a chat bot that can respond to you and I've worked some cases where basically you start the negotiation process, but then you're waiting 8 to 12 hours because it's in a different time zone in a different area of the world. Now they can have basically an AI chatbot that can go through those initial stages, get that information, and do the negotiation process and respond to you on their behalf in perfect English. So we're seeing it being leveraged through all phases of ransomware, that ransomware life cycle. And it's scary. And I'm so glad, Ryan, that you lined up our guest for our next episode, because we've talked about all these scary things, right? We're like, oh no, this is terrible. Wayne says it's scary. But our next episode will kind of focus on, from a practitioner standpoint, the light at the end of the tunnel, I guess you could say, or some hope through all of this that we're seeing now.
He's going to bring some high energy, awesome hope. I love Ray. You folks are going to love him. Tune in for sure. So we need to do our little outro here. It's time to go. So Mary, final thoughts / where can folks find you coming up?
Yeah, so I'll be teaching, and this is kind of neat because the 4563 using AI for defer, it's what's it called? All these terms, Ryan, on demand. It's an on-demand course, but I am scheduled to teach it live a few times throughout the year, and one of those is coming up this month, January 20th. That will actually be live. So if you're interested in seeing what you can do with it from a deeper perspective, feel free to sign up for it. After that, I'll be doing 4500 in San Francisco in February. And then I think, I don't know what I'm doing after that. I can only think out a couple of months at a time.
I told the backstage crew, I was like, all right, we're done sharing links. And then I just gave them one to your class. So Forensics 563, check out Mary's course. Forensics 528, ransomware and cyber extortion. Check it out on demand. Of course, it's still floating out there, and would be cool to quote unquote see you there. There's also an in-person run of Forensics 528 going on with Terrence McGuire training. I love him. He's a very cool dude. He's funny. And for general awareness / if you want to come say hi in person, I don't know if I'm inviting trouble with that, but CactusCon 14 is coming up February 6th through 7th. That's Friday and Saturday of obviously this year. It's in Mesa, Arizona, close to both Mary and myself. And you can check them out at cactuscon.com. I'll be doing a little emceeing this year. I think that's still the plan. But either way, I'll be walking around for pretty much both days. And our ransomware summit that is coming up in 26 is actually going to be combined with the DFIR summit. So a lot of folks know about the DFIR summit. It's a big boy. And we're going to be having fun there in our own separate ransomware track. So that is going to be October 15th through October 22nd. More details on that a little bit later. And hey, join us for each episode of the SANS Stay Ahead of Ransomware live stream, the first Tuesday of each month at 1 p.m. Eastern. By the way, at the beginning of the show, I said 2 p.m. Eastern. That was wrong. That was a lie. I was wrong. 1 p.m. Eastern.
Your fault though, Ryan, because Arizona doesn't change time zones. So I feel like we usually do the +3 in our head for part of the year, and then it's +2 difference to Eastern time. So
that's
I think
exactly what I did.
You were doing the +3 instead of the +2. I know what happened.
You nailed it. So next month, we're going to have Raymond DePalma with Palo Alto Networks Unit 42, and he's going to talk about the other side of the coin, if you will, right? So defense. How do you use AI to stop, prevent, and deal with all of this? So tune in. Thank you, everyone, for showing up, and we appreciate you folks. Have a great rest of your month, and hopefully a great start to 2026.